Hi everyone, welcome to What Happens Live After Church, where we have conversations about the Christian faith and our walk with God. On today's episode, we'll be talking about children be coerced to go to church by parents. Anyways, please sit back and we hope this conversation blesses you. Amen? Amen. Amen. So who's going to Barry?
Okay, we need to state an obvious fact that no human who wants to be coerced to do something he or she doesn't want to do. Even when the person is willing, the person wants to do it at his own pace and time. Nobody wants to be forced. But then we know that if we force people, children, we're talking about children now, to do what they don't want to do, most times we find out that they rebel. Yeah. But then if you don't force children to go to church, how do they now get, the positive influence to make the right decisions? But just like the society, we have laws in our society, requirements to live in that society. We also have what we call freedom, something you just do free will, nobody cares about it. So every home should have laws and freedoms. Like in my house, you must come out for devotion 5 a.m. whether you like it or not. You came back 11 p.m., you've not slept well, you are chatting. It's nobody's business. As a matter of fact, sleeping in that house, you must come out the next morning. So it should also be a law rather in every home that a child, within a specific age should go to church. But before we talk about force, that means there must be a level of resistance. Is that not? Yeah. Sure. So when there is resistance, I think every parent should find out why. I don't know. I think every parent should find out why. Every person got me now.
He said something about in your family there is a law that everybody, as long as you're in that roof, you must come out for morning devotion. Yeah. I do believe that every child should be forced. As long as you're in my house, you must be forced. As part of training up a child, as the Bible instructed in Proverbs 22 verse, he said, train up a child in the way he should grow. Not just only he, but she together. When the Bible talk about he, talking about the both gender.
I think that before we're talking, like he said, if we're talking about force, then it means there's some level of resistance. Okay, so now, children in the home, they already know they go to school. Yeah. You don't need to force a child to go to school. Yeah. They wake up in the morning and they know they are going to school. It's not all the time. Now there are days.
Depending on
everybody
has
bad days. Yeah. So I feel that it depends on how the family has been doing it from time, from when the children are small, as they are growing up. You already know that it's a pattern. We must go to church, like he said in his family. If you sleep in the house, you know that you must come out for devotion. Exactly. So everybody should already know that in this house we are going to church. But I also believe that there should be a time when parents should now allow these children, maybe they must have grown up and they're no longer children. And there must be a time where they should be able to make decisions for themselves.
But sorry to cut you, but you know that sometimes some of these children, while growing up, they are not sure of what they want.
That's why as children you've already forced them, and if the church has been able to impact some level of discipline or training or morals in them, you will not have struggles. So it depends on how that's upbringing, how it is, or how you guys start as a family. Do you get my point?
Yeah, I understand it. I want to support what he said, because he talked about when there is a resistance, you should check the family. Before resistance comes up, there must be a faulty foundation from the parents. Mm-hmm. You don't just apply force to a child when there is no misplaced priority coming from the parents to that child. You give room for that. If you don't give room for that, the use of force will not come, because you're trying to amend.
I think sorry to cut you. Just to add, you said something about the resistance. So one of the things I think that makes these children while growing up and the faulty foundation, is when parents comes back from church and they talk about their pastors. They talk about escorts, they talk about things happening in the church. In front of their children, they give these children, children are quick to learn. So it sinks inside their mindset and in their subconscious, they're like, wow, if my church are doing like this, my pastor is like this, they start becoming rebellious to you because you're saying it in front of them.
Then I don't want us to attribute this to faulty foundation.
Yes.
Because there are some parents that are good.
Yeah.
I see there's this girl when we are in year 1, her name is Beta. She attended because she used to attend a particular church. I forgot.
No name calling.
Okay, yeah. I've been forgetting the church. But then good parents, she told me about her parents and all of that. But then immediately she stepped into school, she stopped going to church. She stopped. So we will not really fault the parents most of the time.
Let me just come in. Now I want us to understand the question at hand. The question now is it proper to force a child to go to church?
Yes, it is.
Now I'm coming. Okay. Now I will talk personally let me assume myself as a parent. The Bible says that we should bring up a child the way it should go, so that they will not deviate from that way. Mm-hmm. Now, before you say that you want to force a child, it means that there is a particular age range where a child starts, exhibiting character of apathy towards church. And now, if the Bible says that you are going to be accounted, or you're going to be accountable for your children, it means that by all means possible, you need to make sure they are intact.
Yeah.
And now Charles raised a point earlier. He said that most times decisions that these children tend to make are not what is good for them at the time they are making those decisions. Now we see that sometimes we tend to act our age. Children get to act their age. Now let's assume that a child that has been following to church till the child becomes about 13, and then you observe that child starts exhibiting an apathy not to go to church.
Why?
And now the question is why? Now at that point, we're not saying that force must necessarily come. Fine, you will find out why verbally. Now let me come. I was having this conversation yesterday. Children are different. They have psychologists. There are some children you can talk to them 1 or 2 words and they will listen. And there are some children you will talk to them times without numbers and they will not listen until some level of force is applied for them to understand it. So are we getting it now? Because my stand is that as a parent, I am going to do whatever that I have to do.
Okay, please, I want us to be clear on something. When we're talking about children, are we talking about from 0 to 18?
Yes,
or children as far as you're under the roof of your parents? So because that matters too.
But I think when you're talking about parenting, it has to do from the start. Because
no.
What
I
talking about your own child. Are we referring to other people's children?
No, you don't. I mean children. Like, are we talking about children?
0 to 7.
Like an age range.
As far as the person is your
Or
child.
as far as the person is irrespective of your age.
Parenting doesn't stop at 13. Parenting doesn't stop at 25 or 40.
Exactly.
So we're
You're
looking
a parent
at it.
so far as you have a child, so far as you're catering to somebody, you can be a caregiver as well.
The pattern of approach changes.
I think that's something we should actually consider.
Know the age range. Now, okay, we're not certain of the age range.
I
said earlier,
there's no age range.
Please, can I say something? Let me use my family.
From 0 to 13, a child, like you can say, let's go to church, and they are moving with you.
Yes,
there's a particular
exactly.
age a child will get to. They want to make decisions on their own.
You talk about the peculiarities of children.
Yes.
Now, I want to come from the point of I have 3 siblings. We're all different.
All right.
At 9, I might not even want you to speak to me. But at 9, maybe my brother can say, okay, I need you to speak to me. So even at 13, I might not be as mature as you're letting me alone to make that decision for myself.
Yes.
So you can apply force, or maybe let me be very practical. You can use cane on somebody who is 13 and it will give you a negative result. But you can use cane on somebody who is 15 and it will give you a positive result. So I feel like personally, it depends on the child.
Yes.
A child can be 40 and still living with the parents and still is still
at that point when a child is 40 and still living with the parents, can you say the parents should still force that child to go to church?
I think at that point you might now apply a different approach.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming.
Because in my taking myself for example, my family, there was a time when, as my mom is dressing up, you know that before she's even done with you should be ready for church.
At what age were you at the time?
I should. Probably when I was a teenager.
Me, 20 waiting. You cannot stay in the house.
But then there was a point you got to. My mom can wake up in the morning and ask you guys to some rent.
People keep saying foundation. Do you know that the foundation may be built properly, but the child is grudgingly going to church?
That's true, sure.
Because let me just go because let my mother not say. Because do you think that you have actually done something good?
Okay, I don't want to have an
yes, because I don't want my mother
because
to
I don't want to miss those
benefits
benefits they give.
That means the foundation is wrong for the child.
Not necessarily.
There is no faulty foundation. Once the foundation is
right.
Just like Gloria.
Okay, I think Sisi should be.
Gloria said something that people have bad days, right? Yeah. At what point do your parents now realize that, okay, my daughter may be having a bad day this Sunday and she doesn't want to go to church?
Not in an African home.
Exactly.
Well done, my sister, well done.
So that's the issue. At what parents, for me, African parents don't actually know when to draw the line or to draw the curtain and say, okay, I need to step back and make sure that this child is actually growing the way I have trained them. So parents just want to keep training. They don't want to just sit back and look, did I really do a good job at training this child? This child has come up of age, you still want to apply force. I feel like there's a certain age a child will get to and then force no longer works. Once you force somebody, they resist.
Yes.
That's just how it is for me. Yes. So it depends on the child's age. And even when children are young, I think that there are some children that you don't need to force, right? You don't need to force them and they just move along with you. They go to church with you. They know that on Sunday, everybody goes to church. Just like you said, on school day, everybody goes to school. Yes. And they know that Sunday is the day. And there are some children that, okay, if you allow them go their way, you know that they will deviate and you need to force them. So it all depends. There are things that they are determining factors. The age of the child. At what stage is this child? If I'm 30, I'm living with my parents, I don't expect them to force me to go to church.
No.
I'm of age.
But as long as you're under their roof. If there's a policy person, as long as you're under my roof.
If I'm having a bad day and I say, okay, I don't feel like going to church, I just want to worship God in my
well,
closet.
some days are like that, but
I feel like my parents should have an understanding. Because there are some days too, I wake up like this morning, right?
You always go to church.
Yes.
Maybe that day.
Yes.
You're not
like this morning now.
The point of duty that
you don't want to go.
I'm still under my parents.
Yes.
I'm not doing anything.
Yes.
I'm not paying bills. They're paying my bills. Yeah. And they're telling me this is the law in my house. You have to go to church.
Like this morning.
And you're saying no, you don't want to go. Until be going.
Like this morning, I'm not going to lie, I did not go to church with my whole heart because I was so tired. Like, can I just rest? Like, do you get? Even in church, I was disconnected too.
I felt some way.
Because there's sometimes they'll tell you that when you get to the church, I was disconnected from the service because in my head I'm like, oh my God, all this weekend of services and I just need a break. I think, like, do you understand? Yeah. So, and if I had told my mom that, okay, I don't feel like going to, I'm 100% sure she would not have understood. But I understood how my body was doing me, and I knew that, okay, today I just want to stay at home, maybe listen to a few worship songs and then sleep.
You know what is obtaining.
You understand? Exactly, and I still had to go. Did that make me connect in the service? No. I didn't connect.
Did more harm.
So invariably forcing our children to go to church, it will just make them, okay, let me just go to church.
Me, I don't think
in some cases, and children are different.
Yeah.
I don't think you should force your child because most times you go to church and everything the man is saying that just talk, let me go.
The man, not the pastor.
the only thing that's in your mind, just let me go. Like
just like what she said.
I woke up and I did not feel like going to church. And even if my parents were going, they will not drag me because I don't feel like going.
For me,
do you understand? They will know that I always go to church, but today I think she did not
Something
wake
must be
up.
wrong.
Something must be wrong.
Yeah.
I
So
grew
if
up-
she comes to ask me now, I'll be like, this is what made me not to go. I think you should come to that level where you speak to your children and try to communicate.
But not in
Get them-
Africa now.
No,
A
even-
lot
A lot of families actually have
Even
that
in Africa.
gift.
Even in Africa, there are families
actually have
that have
It works in your family. What works for your own family might not work for me. For me, my father, when you know that my father is a retired soldier, one, there's army belt waiting for you, two, and there's army boots. You choose which of them
Like
will
even
go
like-
reach your body. You
My dad
get
doesn't
so
go
you,
to
you have to go to
But
church.
then,
Sorry,
if I say, like, my dad doesn't go to church, like, he goes maybe once in a very long while.
Wow.
If he sees me in
And
the
your
house,
mom doesn't coerce
he
you.
cares, like, why are you not going? Why are you not going? Do you
Yes,
understand? But he
exactly.
doesn't force me. You cannot force me because you are not going. Let us sit down.
That's
and
see,
go.
you see,
In my house, doesn't go.
You know that-
In my house, my dad doesn't go to church, but you must go to church.
The same
My
thing.
mom
You
is
know
going
something?
to church, and my mom wants us to go to church. Whether he's going or he's not going is not his business. But
See.
you see, your mom is going.
but why-
You know something?
Let me
You know
give an
something?
example. Even
That
right
year.
now, if my mom is going to church, she'll be like, Ibi, are you not going to church? And I'll be like, don't worry, let me drop you off. You understand? Some of them, they would always want to
At some
ask
level,
You know
should be
something?
an example to your
You know
children.
something. You know something. You see why a lot of times now you said something that even if your father asks you why you are not going, he doesn't force you because he didn't live that life of he didn't live an exemplary life
Well,
to you
yeah.
when it comes to going to church. You understand? He does not really go to church once in a blue moon. So if my child comes up and say I am not in a place to
Yes,
force
you
that
don't have the
child.
moral standard.
Yes, no matter who you are, because you're a role model.
Example,
That child.
yeah, Chelsea's own.
His
My
dad
father-
doesn't
his
even
father
go, but
doesn't
he
go to
goes
church.
back.
My father ensures that
Everybody.
I'm from that
See,
kind of
my dad,
You must go.
and again, the funniest thing is that the funniest thing is that
No, it's not like I'm going to
See, it's because of fear of flogging. It's because of fear of
but it
flogging.
helped me.
It did help
It helped me because today it has affected my
Charles,
decision.
Charles, you know that there are some children that will just say no be cane, I go collect them. Sit down for house. You get.
And someone will be like, don't worry, I will soon come up for your house. When I come up for my
Exactly.
house, you will come put me make
Okay,
That's why they go to school and then it's like
Get
they're
lost.
different.
Can I share a story with you guys?
Okay,
I was
Charles, please hold on there. We'll come back to Charles after this break. Welcome back from the break. Before the break, we talked about how force or how discipline has enabled us to be where we are today. And one of us was going to share his story and his experience so far, whether he was being coerced or not. So, Charles, let's hear you.
okay. About my personal experience growing up in a family of 12. My dad happens to be a retired soldier, and my mom happens to be a strong believer. And my twin brother and I, it's a force, it's a must that we must go to church. My dad made it a norm that everybody in that house must go to church. Okay. Now, the fear of two things: army belt, army boots, and you're going to be on your body when he's beating you.
What?
Also, serious, because he will lie you in the parlor and then beat you very well. So when those things started sticking inside of me while growing up, I had this, I got to know that there's fear. Wow. Yes, there's fear one. So every Sunday, every one of us, we must go to church. It doesn't matter the church you're going, but you must leave his house and go to church. Now, as you return back from church that Sunday, you must tell him the topic. You must give him the text.
No, we do it today.
You must tell him, you must give an illustration of the message.
After the abuse.
So you see that's
After the abuse.
after when you don't do that.
Is that abuse?
No.
That's not an abuse, but where we don't go at some point, there was some time we became resistance, like, wait, yes, it's not floor, you go beat us, now no mind, not beat us. You know, we just stay back. Sometimes we even just go somewhere, hang out, eat our offering money, and then we are back home.
I did that too.
Yeah, you know, some of us, all of us here, we do them now. We just go somewhere. We just go go somewhere, hang out, there's ice cream one side, we lick our ice cream, we wait for those children coming back, so that when they come back, we tell them, what did they learn today in church? We now start buying them ice cream, so as for them to give us their topic, so as for them to give us the topic, the text, and then we just ask one or two persons, okay, tell us, then we go. Yeah. Let me finish in that. So coming up with that, my dad, you must, as long as you're under his roof. So I believe, and that has also helped me because it affected my decisions. Today, there are places I can go that I want to live any kind of life, but because I knew where I was coming out from, not because then I was born again, because I gave my life to Christ at the age of 19. And nobody forced me. It was because I came to realize that I've been here, I've been wasting. He invited me to the conference that led me to Christ. Yeah. He invited me to the conference that I went. He completed my part payment. So when I went to that conference, I saw that there is need for me to come to this household of faith. And nobody forced me. It was my decision. And then growing up, my dad, I do see my mom go to church. And there's one thing I love that made me see that it wasn't force. Because from my own mother's side, it was not force, but prayers. Yeah. My mom, I wake up very early in the morning. She wakes up very early in the morning. You see her in the parlor, she's praying. And there's one thing that she does that sweetens me, that every Monday she has a covenant meeting with God. 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. She goes to the church. Before you wake up, she has gone to the church. So my dad's whole angle was more of forcing us, you must go to church. And the fear of him beating me made me become resistant. But now when I got to see from my own mother's angle, our lifestyle shows what a true Christian should be like.
There was never a force.
There was never a force, but there was a force. A spiritual force.
That was applying the force.
Spiritual. There was a spirit.
That was applying the force.
Physical.
Can I say something? Yeah. I think that this whole force thing actually, the effect it gives to a child is dependent on that child.
On the child.
Because I have a friend, she grew up from a strict background. When I mean strict, not one of all these Pentecostal churches that are coming up now, like strict church, don't wear trousers, don't do this. Her parents were very strict with their doctrine to the church. But if you see that girl now, me myself, I'm praying for her to be redeemed back to God, because she's so, like, from the way we knew her when we were in secondary school and the way she is now, is a sorry case. And you see that her parents are tired because they forced her, and they see that this force is just bouncing back. Like, and the way she's doing it out of resentment for her parents and what they did to her. And the force, yes, it's like a payback. I know that at the end of the day, she's doing herself bad.
101%.
But now is to show you that force is not necessarily important, and you should try as much as possible to understand your children. That's where parents lose it. They feel like I can do what I do to A applies to B, but it doesn't work that way. You should have a way of balancing, like know how this person works.
I think in our present generation now, the way we were brought up then is different from is different from this present generation upbringing. Because this present generation, we are filled with so much, I'll say, technologies of things, social media platform, everything. You get that forms also part of the distractions that make children to become rebellious.
I agree. So I want to say something, please. Now, in families where parents who have children, there are things that your child, like, you want them to do. Now we're looking at what the child actually needs versus what the child wants. That child needs to go to church. That child needs the teaching. Now there are some food, as a parent, you know that this food is good for my child, but your child does not like that food. As a parent, you devise ways. You start to think about, how do I make this food more palatable for my child? What do I need to add? Do I need to cook it differently? And you find yourself looking for other means to make that child enjoy the food, because you know that the child needs that food. So why do some parents now make going to church like a chore for children? Are there no ways that the parents can see to make these children come around? I want us to look at that too.
Okay, let me say something. I'll be standing on the ground that I need my child to go to church. So I will always force my child. Okay. Now see, I saw this post, and the person said that a child will follow your step more than your words.
Yeah, action.
But if you see the post, it's a little child. So there is a particular greed. Now let me say something. I believe in force. Do you know why? Force comes with discipline and it's a culture. And there's also love behind it. That's if you're very smart, if you observe it as a parent. Now, I don't know, but from our stories, we were all forced.
I was.
Somehow.
Mine wasn't really.
I just grew up going to church.
But not 100% of the time.
Yes. Like from Charles' story is something like my own.
But because your parents took you there, do you understand?
We are forced. And there's something for us to do. It builds this unusual growth. You will notice this at the beginning. You're angry, you're doing this thing.
Resistance.
But the end, it's that thing they said you should do, you're seeing the better of.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So that's what
differs from child.
It differs
to
child.
Because at the end of
the point is, we know we have different mentality when it comes to children. Yes, we know. But still, there's discipline and love. It works together. When you discipline and fail to apply love, you're ready for.
I mean, they should balance.
Let me share a story.
Different.
You know, before we started, I shared something that happened to me. That personally, I didn't grow up in a home where you'd be flogged all the time, go to church. We knew that was the culture. We grew up to see that culture. So it was quite different when it was strange. In fact, even as a child, you would not even want to stay alone in the house because nobody in the house would be around. I remember the time I was not feeling too fine. Shout out to Uncle Ibo. You know, he wanted me to do something in children department at the time, and I wasn't feeling too well. But even with that not feeling too well, I would have still come to church. But I did not go, and he got wind of it. So the next Sunday I went to church. So I was thinking I was going to church. We all know who Uncle Ibo. Uncle Ibo called me. The crack I received there. I told myself, even in sickness and in health, I'll be in church. And to be very honest, since that day till date, number one, it made me take singing very seriously. I'm telling you, I took singing very seriously. That even in sickness, most of the time, I'll rarely give excuses about not feeling because he had instilled it in me. At that young age, at the time, I was like, why is he being very wicked? Why is he being very mean? I was small, but like, you're very mean. But to an extent, I got and I was like, okay, maybe he did because he actually likes me. I think it was either my mom or dad that spoke. I was like, no, he really liked me because he wanted to be in front to sing. Like, okay, it's true, he likes me, fine. But I started understanding that if he had not done that, maybe today I'll just be like, I just can't do anything I wanted to do.
You can remember that your parents.
To me, it created a positive impact.
Yes.
Aside the fact that my parents spoke to me, I was like, okay, Uncle Ibo likes you, but the fact that he wasn't my parent though, but he was my teacher, and he took the responsibility on him to train me to the point of saying, you have something inside of you, and you can use it
to crack you.
Yes.
Another child now will not come not because of that they will crack you.
Let me give another example.
Because some teenagers got disciplined for not coming to church. They stopped coming to church.
But they're not.
Me, I jumped out from the
Were you not
window.
disciplined?
I jumped out.
Why did you not stop coming to church?
I wanted to grow, and I
Thank you.
You wanted to grow. That's your own. See, no, this one now.
You cannot bring me to church whether I want it or not.
Why not disciplined?
I was disciplined.
I was disciplined.
Who realized
Why
that?
not?
No.
Not at any point.
Like, I was directed.
How were you directed?
You need to know the denomination you attended from childhood.
He has been in greater.
Oh my God.
He has been in greater.
I've been in greater
He has been in
my
greater.
They didn't kneel you down.
For not coming,
I knelt down.
except when we like.
He did not do all the
we want similar them kind of thing. But
let me
my
say it very
branch.
quickly. There was one Sunday service.
They can't remember.
There was one Sunday service like that. We were at Elikaya Church 1, Pastor CS in Jimabi's church. Now they were having a dedication service. And now the message he preached that day, we were expecting a normal dedication preaching. And he laid some emphasis. And he said something. Now it boils down to what we have been discussing all this while. That it depends on the child. And there's a particular age that the child gets to. You cannot reshape that child to what you want that child to be.
Yeah.
Now he was saying that he gave an illustration that the father, it will get to a point, you as a father, all you can do, all that you can do as a correction, you will fold your hand and be looking at your child. Because why?
That's true.
You have refused to understand the approach and the pattern as at when it was needed. Now, for the sake of this discussion, we want to know how effective it is, or what is the effect when force is used on the child. Now, I will say this and I will say it again, that me, Messiah Michael Usman, as a father, I am going to use every means possible. And guess it now, it depends on what we interpret as what force is. Sometimes some force will not come in form of physical violence. Sometimes a child just needs to understand the seriousness at the top of your voice.
Against the child's will.
See, before a child gets to a point where he or she is entitled to his or her will, let me tell you, there are some times that the Bible says that there's a way that cement right unto a man, but the ending thereof is destruction. There's an age where a child, they do not have the mentals to actually think what is good for them. She said something about wants and what need. What they want might not be what they need at that particular time. And then it is your responsibility as a parent to make sure
to guide them to that path.
And in guiding, look at the word guiding. In guiding sometimes to guide somebody.
Not needed.
In guiding, sometimes you have to be a little bit strict in order to guide someone. When Pastor was talking at the last year crossover service, he was guiding us by the lead of the spirit that nobody should stay at the door. And he was strict on it. He said that I don't want to see, and the brother actually shifted. You moved inside. What was Pastor doing there?
Why dragging me now?
I just want her to remember. Now, what happened then? Pastor was trying to guide us, Pastor was guiding everybody. And he said that I do not want to see anybody there. Now, that statement is somehow harsh to some persons, but Pastor was guiding. Probably, I don't know, maybe
how can you be in church and you're outside?
Maybe he's led that. Maybe he's led that.
He was not forcing at that point because
somebody
did not move out from that place.
You don't know, he's not a function. He's not a function. You cannot consider it as force.
Can I ask a simple question? Your 17-year-old child is in the house with you. And you guys are supposed to go to church. And you ask him, son, let's go to church. I said he's not going.
17 years.
Why?
What would you be doing?
It's black and blue now.
He said he's not going. He's black and blue.
Yes, now.
What will you say?
Okay, I think. Sorry. For me,
it depends. Has the child been going to church with me before that time?
Okay.
Of course. If he has been going to church with me before that time, that means that something is wrong. Now, that is where we're saying that. When you say every means possible, at that point, I will not apply force at that particular point.
Yes,
I will try to find out. But if I find out that it is as a result of his desire,
maybe no interest.
Maybe when a child starts getting to a teenage age, they want to act somehow, and maybe he thinks that he wants to start doing anyhow under my roof. I will beat you blue black.
I give you only 5 minutes.
If I observe that it's not because of any other psychological reasons, that's why you don't want to go to church. You just want to start forming big boy for you. Bible says that spare the rod and do what? But you will.
Do you know the effect that?
I think that.
It depends on the child.
No, I think that parents. Sorry, please, can I say something? I think that parents should understand. Let me say something. I think that parents should understand their children. If you have a child who has been going to church or who has been showing fruits of repentance, should I say, and then that child wakes up on Sunday morning and doesn't feel like going to church. I don't think the right approach is to bundle that child to church. There must be some factors involved. Maybe that child is having a bad day.
Until before we start finding the factors, that moment just
you can pray for that child. You can pray for the child. Sometimes there's something happening to that child in church that child is even trying to run away from. Do you get? There are a lot of things that might be wrong. Something might be happening to that child in church, and then you need to find out. That's why I'm saying that are a lot of things that might have gone wrong. So it's not about bonding that child.
What about her?
Let's not forget that.
just go there first.
Nothing was added to her
I can
life.
monitor you from there. Then when we come back,
let's understand that the church is another form of social gathering.
Yes,
in as much as it's a religious, but a
But
lot of things happen, and we cannot be. No. In as much as children have been molested in school, molested in the home, molestation also happens in the church. So when a child is showing resistance,
and then
there could be something wrong with you.
Let's
We should also look at that point.
We're not saying for me. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I would apply. I think it's kind of not safe leaving you at home at that point. I'm talking about my initial reaction before I now come to understand what exactly is happening. But first of all, carry your bag and let us go. Let me monitor you at that moment. When we come, we cannot have.
While we are inside the car, we can.
I'll be very interested in that conversation. Just get dressed. You can stay with me if you're a child. You can stay with me in adult church. Let me look at you. Then when we come back, we cannot have the conversation.
So if I
you know what I'm trying to say. I'm concerned about your safety at this point.
The age matters at that point.
I can't leave you alone.
And you don't know what exactly
in the house. Let's be very honest. A child wakes up Sunday morning, and that's the time that the devil wants to work and say, okay, I'm not going anywhere. Or you just want to say, you don't want to go to church.
This child is 9 years old or 21 years old.
For me, I feel like that's where a lot of parents come from. Like, how will I leave this child in the house? And then everybody goes to church. It's not even necessarily. What I'm saying is, I agree with you at this point because it's not really necessarily because of what the child is going to church to hear. But you cannot be at home alone. Do you understand? So that's why
people are talking about a child of below the age of being on their own. Because we're talking about generally.
No, see, there are some persons that are 20 years.
You can leave your teenager, and you won't be scared.
I can leave a 25-year-old. I can leave a 22-year-old.
So
there are some 23 years old that don't know their left
because
right.
they have health issues and all that. It's understandable.
So when you come back from church, that's when you
will not have that conversation.
After you have dragged the 21.
No, I said I can leave a 23 at home. I can leave a 23-year-old. We can talk about it. We can have conversations.
Yes, of course. Fine, we're not going to.
Sorry, that is very bad for a child to get used to your threat first as a father or a parent, and your fear.
That's why you should not force.
No, I'm trying to digress.
I get your point.
Yeah. For a child to get used, don't know what you said. After all,
just came now.
Now listen. You're not used to the fear and the threat. That's why I said you apply love.
Encouragement.
Can I say something, please? Can I say something? Can I share my experience too? Okay. Now, you leaving a child at home because the child is up to 20 and he or she feels that she doesn't want to go to church. Let me tell you, one of those times, while I was growing up.
On the grounds that you've been going to church.
You've been going to before this time.
This is just
those time. When I want to commit, is Sunday. I'm being practical here. I monitor Sunday because Sunday is when the whole house will be quiet.
Okay.
The neighborhood will be quiet. She can stylishly walk into the house from the kitchen. I'm giving you as by wisdom. I'm giving you by experience. That's that's when I know, because sometimes some children can form that they are not feeling too well.
Once parents leave,
Once you just leave the house,
start to juba.
as you're leaving, they are texting, they are telling you, okay, this person has gone, this person has left the house, my dad and mom just left the house. They are setting their compass clean.
That's true too.
They are setting their compass clean. The moment the parents just leave the house, the whole house is quiet. She's either around somewhere, walking to and fro, waiting for me to devour. So I think at that point, sometimes when, like what Debbie said, follow me, carry your bag, let's go to church. The house of God is where we gain comfort. It's where we get love. You encourage the person. You encourage the person. I've been sick. There was one time I was sick.
Said that this particular point has to do with an age limit.
Okay, so for me, I feel like you may think that you love me with your actions, but I'm not interpreting that thing as love.
Yeah.
In conclusion, we'll be talking about how we've been impacted by our parents' sense of discipline to go to church or being coerced or not. So we're going to talk about how it's impacted us. Is it positive? Has it been positive or negative? Because it feels like it's all been positive. Has there been a resistance from your end or not, Barry?
Okay, for me, I would say I was forced at all because I love church.
Because your parents took you there.
Yeah, and I love playing the drums and all of that. So one thing to parents should try to let their children commit to one unit or the other in church. Music, I wasn't born again then, but I just loved rehearsals, going to play the keyboard and all of that. But now parents should also know that when there is resistance, please try to ask questions. Parents should try to ask questions. I tried to give an example of my friend in 100 level. Immediately the girl got to school, she stopped going to church. So those fathers, and then parents should be keen about the salvation of their children. Don't leave everything to church. Some kids are even afraid of going to church because after all, my mama will go report me to pastor now. I don't want to see that pastor, none of that. Don't make your family about church. Okay. So when you see that your kid is deranged from the family's pattern, try to sit that child down and ensure your child is saved, because there's something called the seed of salvation. So that anywhere that child finds him or herself in school, you can be sure that what you've taught this child, the child will live up to it.
So even sometimes, even if the child mistakenly falls, because it is possible that everybody can faint. You get, some people can get weary. So, but that seed, like you mentioned, inside, will recharge. One point or the other will bring the person back. So if you keep falling, you'll keep coming back.
So for me, I wouldn't say I was forced, very forced. Because my mom gave her life to Christ while she was pregnant with me. Oh. She already had some other children, but she gave her life to Christ when she was pregnant with me. So I was dedicated in church.
But you don't like church now?
No, why?
But you don't like church now?
No.
Okay, you like church.
We grew up going to church. So to me, it became like a pattern, became like a culture. So there was never a time when we're having issues, like you had to drag me to church. And then another thing that helped me to, like he said, is commitment. At every point or the other, I had a responsibility in church, even from a little age, so I know there was something always driving me to church. So my parents didn't even have to, even if like maybe I wouldn't want to be in church, but I know there is a responsibility I need to fulfill in church. I know there is something I need to do. So that always brought me to church. And today it has helped me. I'm not sure I can wake up on a Sunday morning and feel comfortable in the house. Even if there are factors that maybe can mitigate me, like stop me from going to church, I will either go online, have an online service or something. So it has impacted in me in that regards.
Okay, so for me, I feel like there should be, for me, my stand is the level, it depends on the age of the child, right? There's a certain age that the child resists force, and there should really be no force, rather there should be an encouragement, because as the child grows, I believe that you've instilled values on the child that's supposed to take the child as he grows. Like we are all saying now, it helped me, it did not help me, it helped me, and stuff like that. It's because of the way your parents brought you up. That's why you can now say that, okay, going to church actually helped me. I cannot go every Sunday without going to church. And then another point I would like to make is that we shouldn't make going to church just a culture. It should be something that, it should not just, yes, it should just be something that, okay, I'm going because I want to reverence God today. It should not just be because, okay, today na Sunday, I need to be in church, where make pastor not say I no come church or something like that. That kind of thing. So it should be something that you want to actually glorify God, and not because it's a culture you need to fulfill. It's a tradition, family tradition. We must be in church every Sunday, which I feel that's what a lot of families these days are doing. Yeah. Not necessarily because they want to go and be edified by the word of God, but because they want to just fulfill a tradition of exactly. So I feel like there should be a place of salvation at the end of the day in all that we are doing.
Alright. Me, I'm not in the opinion of forcing my kids or my children or our children to church.
It never born.
Because I feel what force does, it takes a child to the point where the child does not have control over his will. He's unable to make some certain decisions for himself when the parent is no longer there. Because you've used force in training that child. The child loses its self-confidence when you're not there. So you need, rather than forcing, I believe in guiding, teaching the child, telling the child the reason. These days, you don't just see a child and tell the child, don't go there. The child will ask you why.
Yeah, they ask why.
They want to know.
And they want to know that. So you must give a reason. You must educate the child. The way we are as children to our parents, that is how we are children to God. Even God himself, he created us, and he said he has good, bad, evil, but he told us to choose good. He did not just end it there. He went further to explain why we should choose good, because it is good for us. And he told us what it will lead us to, which is a good end. But you don't just tell a child, don't do this, or you force a child to do this, and you're not giving the child the basis of why you are telling that child to do this thing. So I believe we should not force the child, but we should train the child. Even God himself, and a songwriter even said, he will not compel us to go against our will, but he will make us willing to go. That is what we should do. Make the child see reasons why he should do this thing, and the benefit of this thing that will lead the child to the right path. Thank you.
Okay. Man of God.
Okay. You are preaching next week Sunday. Wow.
Okay, that's good. I dropped a post today about friend zone, and I said there's some friends that are called starters, and there's some that are called finishers. Every parent should know that they are called starters, and for you to start a thing, you must apply force. Not the team again. Yes, you're starting a job, there's a force that you don't want the job to fail. You understand? You want to start your car, ignition, there's a force. Everything that you start, you apply force. It will get to a level where you're not enjoying it. There's no force again. So I believe, I was forced to. Though I diverted. I won't lie, when I came back.
Men at work divert.
No, I'll say the truth. Yeah. But I believe every parent should know that they are called starters. You will not finish with that child. So you stop at the point. So in that starting stage, for me, Richard, there should be force.
But don't you think that is that force that made you to deviate?
No, it's just I think the
somehow
the trend.
Somehow, even if he came back, I feel like somehow there was a now he's doing it willingly where there's no force. Yeah. But when he deviated, there was force.
I think the force.
What do you say?
I think imagine what would have happened to him if there was no force there. Do you know if it would have been even worse than this?
Yeah. Okay. Let me share an experience.
After 1 million.
Yeah. If I wasn't forced, I grew up in a community, in a place where young boys were involved in cultism. I had them as friends. Yes. I grew up with them. I ate with them. Okay, but when I look at my family background, where my family are coming out from, guy, nobody tell me, I don't even reason now. So I think that time, at that point where you deviated, you wanted to test the waters.
Yes.
Because we all experience it at
do you
some
know that
point.
force is different from discipline? I think that's where we are missing the mark.
Yes, exactly.
I think that's where we are missing the mark. You can discipline your child without force. Do you know? You can discipline, yes, you can discipline a child to go to church without force. Do you know?
Do you know that? Do you know that in this book there is threat?
Completely, I disagree.
And in threat there is force.
I disagree.
For example, you can tell your child that if you don't go to church, the privilege you have in the house, you will not get it anymore. It's not force.
For me, growing up, to an extent, I would say there was a little force. But then, now that I've grown, I think, okay, when the force actually helped me.
Yes.
Because
yes.
I didn't want to, but I still did. Like when I go to church, I got engaged.
To a man.
Maritally.
To a man.
Engaged in the sense that
In activity.
I had a lot of things to do. Like we have drama rehearsals, we have choir rehearsals, and all of that. Like the force actually helped me in that aspect. Like I think that was my starting point, and from there it made me now like to get COERCED.
Yes.
And when I now grew like past that age, I did not need anybody to not tell me come to church or do not come to church. Like I know what, and I understood why I should be in church, not just because I was forced to go to church. I understood for myself why I should, and I know what I was benefiting coming to church. I knew how people that were not in church were like. I did not like their lifestyle, and I don't think I wanted.
So then, like your own lifestyle, you were the church.
I don't know if they liked it though, but for me, I did not like it, and I saw that if they continued there, they will not end well, and I wanted to end well. So if I come to church, I was learning, like I had things I was learning that was helping me. So that was why I actually like grew to the point I am today. So I would say, for your child, at some like when they are growing, use force, use force, because children don't know what they want. That is why they are children. They don't know what they want. Okay, let me say they know what they want, but they don't know what they need. Yeah. This is what you need. There are some things that your parents have grown. You would think that, oh, my mother don't know this. They will tell you that these things, we know these things, because they have passed this stage. And there are some certain things they saw that they know that this is not good. If I leave this child here, this child will not end well. So I need to do anything I can to.
I did not conclude. Let me conclude. Should I? Okay, like I was saying, I think discipline comes with development. You should know that. I was telling IB and some persons, I think that was 25th, that before you allow the child, there's this adage that leave a man put for fire, make fire burn up, so that will get sense. Small picking, little child. Leave a man go. But today, you want to burn your hand and you come, the parent will hold the child's hand, put it near the fire. The child will feel the hotness of the fire. Do you want to put your hand there? No, you must put your hand, make your hand burn.
No.
Are you getting it? There's this development now in discipline. You have to understand that there's force, but there's development in it. That's my conclusion.
I actually, for me, I had a Muslim background, so I don't want to talk about Muslim force. So I want to talk talking as a Christian. I think my mother is a Christian while I was a Muslim. So there's never been a day, even when I come for holiday, she would only say, son, let's go to church, and I'm like, I'm not going. So willingly on my own, though my uncle always talks to me about church, and then willingly one of the days I had a conversion, and I went to his house actually. I went to his house on my own, and then I gave my life to Christ. I started going to church. Now, from being a Christian and what I have read, how I have grown, I have come to understand when it comes to children, there is an age range, there is a particular age where force is needed to be applied. And there is a particular age where you no longer apply force. Just like you said, children don't know, sometimes they know what they want, but it's not what they actually need. So whenever they want to make that decision on their own, now I want to try to imagine a life, let's say, because we are shying away from the force and we leave the child to start having his or her way from that early age. Have you tried to imagine what it will be?
Kind of thing.
I've seen people that their life is just somehow, and they tell you that if they have had the opportunity for people to talk to them the way they talk to me, they wouldn't have been like this. Now, people that talk to me, so I don't want to tell you how I was beaten with cable wire. I used to say this, okay, you received a crack on your head and it changed your mentality. I received beating from cable wire and it changed me from being a stubborn boy to a gentleman.
Yes.
But it never
Now, it does not apply, it does not work for
every
everybody.
child,
But now what we're saying is that when you observe your children as they are growing, you know the children, there are some child that you can naturally talk to them and they will listen to you. And then there are some child, you know that ability to doubt, to question every authority that comes.
Yeah.
And sometimes to make them understand that thing, it's not even by just verbal words. It's not by verbal alone. Sometimes you have to coerce them.
Really?
You need to make them understand it in a very hard way, that this is what it is. Just like all of us are. There are some of our siblings that they are not really forthcoming because of the
free hand.
Because of the free hands. Yeah. So we cannot shy away from it. In as much as it is not very, very good, but we should understand the importance of forcing a child to church. If God will hold me accountable for my children, I will repeat it, I must do everything by every means possible to make sure that my children get acquainted.
I would say it again. I would say again that the reason why some parents force their children to church is because they believe that they don't have the ability to impart to instill the godly knowledge, and they leave it to the
pastor, the church.
Church.
I would say we shouldn't force our kids to church. Rather, we should encourage them to church. While growing up, my mom, she was always going to church, and she raised us up in a way that we always go to church. So, along the line, I got engaged while I was a teenager to certain services. So that actually made me got more committed to service. So I feel while raising our kids, we should look for a way for them to be equally engaged in service. Let them look for some things they love doing. There are some of our kids that have talent. It could be just like Barida said, he was playing drums. There are some that can sing. We should let them know that your talent can be used to glorify God. So when you come to church, you use your talent, glorify God, there's a blessing attached to it.
That's guiding them.
Yeah, coupled with your own life example. Your life example. The way you've lived your life with your kids, it equally matters. So that when you're telling them, they'll know that, this is where my mom is coming from, this is what we've seen her do while growing up and all that. So we should try to encourage our kids while growing up too.
For me, I'll go with the opinion that children should be forced to go to church, but on the basis of love, on the ground of love.
Yes.
I grew up, like I would say, I grew up, my dad was the first person, while my mom was the encouraging person. My mom did not come to shout, raise voice. She was doing her own force underground. She was praying. One thing that attracted me was one of the days when she was coming back from her covenant service. I saw my mother shining. I was 19. I didn't enjoy singing. I didn't enjoy Anwela. I saw her coming from a long distance, and she was greeting people. She was smiling. Wow, I was so excited. But at first I was angry because every morning when you wake up in the morning, you don't see her in the house. You be worried, where has she gone to, and other stuff like that. So my dad forcing me helped me, but did not help me because at some point I became rebellious. I used it to my own advantage. Like I said earlier on, where I would set my compass because I'm waiting for somebody to come and feed my soul. Then, my lost soul. So it was advantage to me. As at then. Yeah. But my mom going to church made me see reason. Not just only she going, me seeing her that she sat me one day. She sat me down in the parlor. She by God's grace, she didn't finish primary school because of the civil war then. But she told me how she was dividing the word of truth back days. how the Holy Spirit will help her to preach the gospel, how she will interpret the Bible. And I was like, I'll conclude by saying that forcing a child does not guarantee that that child will follow my step to church. Forcing a child to church does not guarantee that, but it's laying a foundation for that child. So the experiences I had then helped me, and today the decision I took to follow God, to go to church has really helped me, and I'm not regretting it. Just like he said, he was involved in a unit. He loves playing drum. And two things, like I stated earlier, I said, my mother's passion, I love for God, made me love our God. Yeah. As Bible said, as for me and my children, we will serve the Lord. For my mother and her children, they will serve the Lord. So while she was doing the prayer, my dad was doing the physical work. Me, I was there, mellow in between until the time comes. Again, we'll see that every child has an appointed time.
Yeah.
Very true.
So no matter how we force them to church, no matter how we try to do all the measures and all the things, how stubborn they are, everybody has an appointed time. So it was when my appointed time came and I saw the benefits. The benefit. And again, there's somebody else. She's in US, my ex-girlfriend, Marian Egbujo. She's in US now by God's grace. Calm down now. So, but
God win.
I said something about him and my ex-girlfriend. There are some persons God can use to pass through to bring us closer to Him. Yes. And Marian Egbujo happens to be one of the persons that, if she says yes, if I say no, no problem. So I had to concur to her yes. But that's what they did, was a platform. God used them to prepare a table before me, for me to come to know Him. So every children, parents must know that every children, because tomorrow we are all going to be parents. Yeah. Parenting is not an easy task. Yeah. So we're discussing it here. Tomorrow we're also going to watch this same episode and said, years ago, we talk about this thing. Yeah. It's not easy because we must, and again, parents should be open to know that your children can ask you that question like, why am I going to church?
Sure.
You should be able to give them. That's why the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should grow. So you create a lovely relationship, a proper training, and encouragement. Yeah. That way.
So before you round up, let me just say is that even if, like, for people who go through force or who are going through being forced at the moment, I think that the benefits are not seen at that time. Yeah. Some of us seated here have said that we were forced, and today you know where you are. Yeah. You know where it has brought you. Yeah. So that you will not see it now. Now it might look as if maybe your parents are wicked, or they don't know how to train you, or they don't know how to make decisions for you. But you will come to a point in your life where you will sit back, and if you take good stock of your life, you will know that this thing has actually impacted, it has helped me. There are some situations I will find myself in, and if I want to make a decision, I will think about what my parents will think, or what my parents will say if they got to know that I'm in this kind of situation and I'm making a decision like this. So because of all of those, maybe forcing to do one thing or the other, it has created unconsciously that, you know. So, and in the long run, it's paying off. It's paying off.
Looking at the society today, the church is a safe place. Yeah. For example, I remember when I was still in school, my mom would be like, you know, when I was in church, I was always participating in Bible quotation and all that. So when I was in school, my mom was like, when all those bad boys come to you, make sure you put for them. And it's helped me actually.
Again, I think part of those trainings also helped my decision making while on campus. The friends I chose, in fact, now God bring them come for me, not me. One of the prayer I prayed, I said, God, don't allow me choose my friends. Because if you allow me choose my friend, even as a sound young believer coming up, I will choose wrongly. But bring people that when I'm doing something wrong, they would correct me. And I had those friends. I was doing something at the point I was even going out of the line. One of my friends called me and said, Pastor, you don't belong here. This thing you're doing, you don't even come to do pastors, but you don't belong here.
All right.
You get. So I think that training now, that training also helped now me to adjust. And why I find myself, there are times I go to check my results. You see, because it's insult, you see pure F, you see Egyptian, let my people go. You see some things like that. But at the point, because I noticed that my mom happens to be the prayer person. When I experienced that, I call my mother and I would talk to her on the phone. I would tell her, Mom, see, pray for me, see waiting this supper. This was happening to me. Because I saw her. That's why we say, the Bible says, train up a child in the way that child will grow. So when I noticed that my mother's weapon was prayer, I knew that I had to do, even while I knew I was doing things that was not right before the sight of God. I think over the time, it has paid. And it's still going to pay.
All right.
When I marry Messi, safe.
I don't know if there's any extra thing I'd like to say, because I think everybody has said everything. Anything I'm saying will just be repetitive. But sincerely speaking, personally, I'd like to really appreciate our parents. They've actually done so well. Sincerely speaking. All our parents, we really, really love you. Parenting is not a one-way thing. I've come to understand from all our conversation and all our stories. It's not a one-way thing. Love works where it works. Force works where it works. Conversation works where it works. So discipline works where it works. So it's all a combination into one to make us who we are today. And as you've seen from our lives, we're here having conversations with you about the Christian faith. We're young believers. And we're growing in our faith, and so far I believe that God has actually helped us to a point, and that's why we're here having this conversation with you. Like Gloria said, you might not really see the impact or see the result right now, but we're indeed testimonies of God's goodness and being in church. We know what church has done for us. We know what being in the, not just church like a building, like being in the Christian faith has done for us. We just rounded off our end of year retreat and we learned about recharge, and I'm sure we mentioned it here. It's been a blessing. If we were not there, I'm not sure we'll be able to get the kind of knowledge we've gotten so far. We hope that this conversation has been a blessing to you. I'm not going to say much, but hopefully as time goes on, we'll have more conversations. If you'd like us to talk about something, please drop in the comment section. Let's know what you want us to talk about, and we will talk about it. Exactly. If you also think that it is right or wrong, which I know it's not like a right or wrong question. If you believe that it is right or wrong, or if you have an opinion as to whether parents should coerce their children to go to church, please drop in the comment section. But from all you've heard here, we know it's a combination, it's a lot in one. And they all work to bring out the best in us. So please join us next time as we have a conversation about the hookup culture.
Now we'll go spoil this.
Okay, so see you next time. We're proudly sponsored and powered by Greater Evangelism Work Crusade Rainbow Town Church. You can join our services every Thursday by 5 p.m. and Sundays by 8 a.m. We hope to see you there. And we hope we'll be a blessing to you. God bless you. Join our youth service as well, last Sunday of every month. And to crown it all, this year we'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary. The ministry of Greater Evangelism will be 50 years. We're all products of Greater Evangelism Work Crusade. And we're proud to say that we love God, we know Jesus, and we let him know. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.